So in the last lecture, we saw that there is a conservative central force of the kind, let's say F equal to minus Q of x in one dimension, which leads to simple harmonic motion or simple harmonic oscillation, right? And the solution for equation of motion under this force, we could write it down as a cosine of omega 0 t plus phi, where omega 0 is a characteristic frequency described by the force constant k and the mass of the particle. Right? Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to make this problem more realistic, and what that means is basically is that we are going to add a dissipative term or a damping term in the equation of motion, and that represents the nature more accurately. Right? So for example, now again we know two of these dissipative forces which normally act on almost every system that we encounter, especially all the mechanical systems. One is force of friction, right? In general problem solving, we know how to handle it. We know that its magnitude is proportional to the normal force applied, so basically depends on the mass of the object, right? And we can define the coefficient of friction, etc. However, maybe not in this lecture, but soon, or as a tutorial problem, we'll see how that friction force affects the periodic motion. And another force that is normally also seen, a dissipative force, is this viscous drag force, right? And that is basically when you it's basically the effect of environment. Could be the atmosphere, could be high pressure gas, could be a liquid. So when you try to move through that, there is something called a viscous drag which opposes that motion, right? And why we are taking this is because friction and viscous drag, these are the most common dissipative forces in nature that we encounter, and at least for this one, the form of the force is rather simple. So a viscous drag force, and let me write it down as F dissipative, is basically has this form. So it's proportional to the velocity of motion. So I mean, in the sense that, for example, if you are not moving, then there is no opposition to being stationary, right? Either through the liquid medium or in the gaseous medium. If we start moving, then the opposition or the force opposing the motion is proportional to the velocity of motion or the speed of motion itself. And okay, so velocity, because it's always in the opposite direction, it tries to stop you from moving in the direction. So it's written as minus bv, and it's rather similar to this form, right? So here it's minus kx, that's a restoring force, right? That's responsible for the motion in a particular fashion. This is the one which is just going to simply oppose the motion. And now, before moving forward and not discussing it any more detail, I'll leave this as an exercise to argue. So this is for you, argue that this Fd is a non-conservative force. Right? So try to convince yourself that yes, if I write a force like this, we know that F equal to minus kx or minus kr is a conservative force. We have proved that, right? We saw that in previous lectures. Now I want you to argue either through physical arguments or by solving it that Fd, which is defined as minus Bv, is actually a non-conservative force, and that is why it's a dissipative force. And we'll see what is the effect on the equation of motion. Okay, fine. So if let's say this is the force, then my equation of motion becomes something like this. So now what I have to write is, so I can write down the equation of motion. So particle which is still under the influence of a central force along with this dissipative force, its equation of motion is mx double dot, right, is equal to minus bv minus kx, right? This force and the central force. Now all we'll do is we'll rearrange this. So minus x double dot plus b, instead of v I'll write it x dot plus a of x equal to 0, right? And bit of more rearrangement, to put it into a more familiar form, x dot plus k by m x equal to 0. Now this b over m, this factor we will call as gamma, and k over m, you already know, we write it as the natural frequency omega naught square x equal to 0. So this is the equation of motion for a particle which is acted upon by both these, a central force and a viscous drag dissipative force. Okay, now what you have to do is we have to find the solution for this. And the way one can find the solution for this is, I mean, of course, either we can go very in the formal mathematical way, that we know that this is again a second order differential equation. So we can try to look for, or we can work out its exact solution. Or what we can do is we can do it a bit more simply, right? Because we know that this algebra or this mathematics is available, so we can find solutions of these equations accurately and exactly if we want. However, here the idea is to quickly get to the solution and then look at the physical significance of that solution. Right? So for that, now what I do is, what we can do is we can try to guess the solution for this equation. And the way we guess it is, so let's say, so let's say gamma is equal to 0. That means this term b equal to 0, or there is no drag force, right? So in that case, we know that the equation of motion is simply x double dot plus omega naught square x equal to 0, which is my original system. So I know that if gamma is 0, there is no viscous drag, then the solution x of t looks something like this, right? So I am going to change symbols slightly because I do want to follow the convention that's given in the book, right? So it will not change the significance of the relations anyway. So x naught, which is now the amplitude A, cos of omega naught t plus phi, right? So this is the solution when, let's say, gamma is equal to 0, right? This we know, this we have done earlier. So we'll write it down as solution number 1. Now, in the other case, so let's say 1. Now, in the other case, let us say there is no restoring force, right? So the particle is basically simply under the influence of, so there is no restoring force, I am just trying to move, and there is a viscous drag, right? So that means, for example, the viscous force k will be 0, so omega naught will be 0, but the equation of motion is then written in as gamma x dot equal to 0, right? So then if there is no restoring force, then this is my equation of motion and I can solve it. So what I will do is we will solve it in terms of the velocity dv over dt, because this is nothing but gamma v, right? And we can get its solution. So this will give me v of t as exponential minus gamma of t. Let me just see the factor in front that I have put in. So some v0 exponential minus gamma of t. That's gamma t, right? This is solution. This is more or less same as what you have also seen in case of radioactivity, right? So this is a simple first order differential equation and the solution for that. Now once we have the v of t, we can write this as dx over dt, right? And again solve for it. V0 is a constant. So this way we can get a solution in case there is no restoring force as some another amplitude x naught prime exponential minus gamma of t, right? Gamma t. So this is the solution. So when no damping, there is a solution. Damping but no restoring force, this is the solution. So in case both of them are present, there is a damping as well as restoring force, the solution is going to be a combination of these two. So let us write down the solution as 1 plus 2. So when the entire force is present, let us write down the solution as some amplitude exponential minus alpha t cosine of some frequency, now I will write it omega dt plus a phase factor phi. Okay. So arguing that under two extremes the solution will have this behavior and this behavior, I have written down general solution for the system under the influence of both the forces like this. Of course, what we can do is we can take the solution, put it back here and confirm that it satisfies the equation, right? And here the values alpha is, I think, gamma by 2 is gamma by 2, and omega d, which is now the new frequency, is omega naught square minus gamma square by 4. Okay? Where again gamma is b by m, omega naught is square root of k by m. So this is the natural frequency. This term again, if you look at the dimensions of gamma here, right? So anyway, since the homogeneous equation, all the dimensions are going to be same. So dimension of gamma are also 1 over time. Dimension of x are also going to be omega are also 1 over time. So this is also some kind of some kind of parameter which determines a characteristic time. But anyway, we'll discuss that later. So alpha is gamma by 2, omega d is this thing, and now in this case, omega d is a different frequency. So of course, the system under influence of an additional force will not oscillate or will not undergo periodic motion with the same natural frequency. There has to be effect of this, and that effect comes out in terms of alpha and omega d. Right. So this is the solution for our harmonic oscillator under damping. Okay. Same equation, then I can again rewrite as, so I take this term as some amplitude, the periodic function phi. And when we write it down like this way, now it looks more or less same as your harmonic oscillator equation of harmonic oscillator solution. So that means this is also going to show us periodic motion. Frequency, the periodicity of that motion is governed by omega d, which is different from the natural frequency, right? Contains the damping effect of damping, and the amplitude, which are the constant here, which we got from the initial conditions, and we said that started with one maximum amplitude, the system will keep on oscillating between these two extremes, right? And we also showed that in terms of a energy diagram. Here, the amplitude is not a constant. Because of the damping term, the amplitude also becomes dependent on time, and its time dependence is now given like this. X naught, which is the constant amplitude or the initial amplitude to begin with, and it keeps on changing with time with exponential of minus alpha t, where alpha is gamma by 2. Okay. So, yeah. So this is the equation of motion for a harmonic oscillator with a damping term. And if you want to plot it graphically, so your general harmonic oscillator of that kind, we said that it goes something like this, right? With the initial conditions, so we said the phase angle is 0. So this is let's say this is A of t, and this is my omega t. Right? So for a undamped harmonic oscillator, this is how the amplitude changes as a function of omega t. So it starts with some let's say here x naught, and then keeps fluctuating between these two. In case of a damping term now, this amplitude goes down as an exponential of minus gamma by 2 t with a slightly different frequency, right? So this will look something like this. It will start with the same amplitude, try to go down, of course the frequency is slightly different, and keep losing amplitude in each successive cycle, right? And of course, depending on the relationship between omega naught and gamma by 2, this the frequency, over a long time, the phase will be very, very different, and the loss in amplitude is normally so let me plot it in a more nicer fashion. So the loss in amplitude, this one is simply following the exponential behavior, exponential minus gamma t by 2, where gamma by 2 is basically alpha, right? So this is how the system is going to oscillate. So it's still going to undergo the periodic motion with a frequency omega d. However, it will keep on losing its amplitude, so the maximum range that it can attain, and over time, then we know that normally all systems come to a stop, right? So basically the oscillation, the amplitude becomes very, very small or negligible compared to the minimum or center location. So, okay, so this is the case. Now what we can do is, we can look at this equation and try to understand it in a bit more detail. So let me remove it from here and I'll redraw it. So now what we are saying is, as we said that this is our governing equation now. So we said it's, well, let's write it as 80, or I'll write, well, let me write it as A of t cosine of omega dt plus phi. So this is my equation of, this is my solution for harmonic oscillator with damping, right? And now what we can do is, we know that omega d was written as omega naught square minus gamma square by 4. So now looking at the relationship between omega naught and gamma, we can define, or we can characterize this motion into 3 different categories. So one of them will be called light damping. And what we mean by that is, so what we are saying is, let us say if gamma by 2 is much less than omega naught. Okay? If this is the case, and effectively what we are saying is the damping is very, very weak, right? So in a very weakly damped system, if gamma by 2 is much less than omega naught, then this term, because this is much smaller than omega naught square, this term is very, very close to omega naught, then this will imply that omega d is basically omega naught. There is a very small difference from there. And if that is the case, then in here, then my solution I can write as x naught exponential minus, well, gamma by 2t, where gamma by 2 is now much smaller compared to omega naught, cos of, now I can replace omega d and I can simply write omega t plus phi. Okay. So then this becomes my solution for light damping. And what the information that we want to, or that we that we can get by writing the equation like this is that under these conditions, the amplitude is still going to go down as exponential of minus gamma by 2t, right? Where gamma will determine some characteristic time. However, the oscillation frequency of the system is more or less same as the natural frequency, right? So the system oscillates as if there is no damping. So the periodicity does not change and the amplitude keeps on changing. Of course, the amplitude will change now much more slowly. So the system will take multiple cycles to dissipate the amplitude and then come to a rest. So it will be like a system which can run for much longer, right? And these are mostly oscillating systems that we are interested in, or that we try to make in our laboratories or in our day-to-day life. Because once, for example, if you have a pendulum clock, we know that the pendulum clock left alone will actually stop oscillating after a certain amount of time. There is always the atmospheric drag, right? However, we want that drag to be much smaller so that, let's say, once you have wound this spring or once you have given it oscillation, at least for a day it should keep on making the same time. Making the same time meaning it should oscillate with the same frequency, right? So if the damping is much smaller compared to this characteristic frequency, then we can still achieve that with the loss of the amplitude to a certain extent. So this is called light damping. Of course, as gamma by 2 approaches omega naught, you will have more and more damping, and you will go from light damping to heavier damping regime, where then the omega d will be much different compared to the natural frequency of the system. What if gamma by 2 is equal to omega naught, right? So the damping term, or the characteristic damping, is same as the natural frequency of my oscillator. So in that case, you can see that omega d is going to go to 0, right? So in this solution, omega d goes to 0, phi is an arbitrary phase, we can take it as 0 for time being. So then this term simply becomes 1 and all that remains is x of t is x0 exponential minus gamma by 2t, which is same as exponential minus omega naught t. So what we have seen is, under this condition, there is actually no periodic motion, right? That periodic term has gone. So the cos theta is not there. We cannot have oscillatory motion. Only thing that will have is an exponential decay of the amplitude. Of course, the amplitude starting from any x0 will take infinite amount of time to go to 0, right? However, it will never cross that equilibrium point and go in the other direction, right? Okay. So this is termed as critical damping, and basically under critical damping you don't have a periodic motion. However, the amplitude goes to 0 in the limit t tends to infinity, right? And this is a characteristic equation for critical damping. Okay. What if, the third and the last case, what if, which again is useful in certain situations, right? And maybe in discussion later on we can address one of those. What if gamma by 2 is greater than omega? So much less, that's light damping to heavy damping. If it's equal, then it's critical damping, no oscillation, and simply the amplitude goes to 0. What if gamma by 2 is greater than omega naught? Then what happens to the frequency of oscillation or the periodicity of the system? If this is the case, then basically my omega d, so this basically implies that omega d is equal to 0. Then my omega d becomes an imaginary quantity. Right? Because this term is larger than this, so the square root of that will be an imaginary quantity, or omega d becomes imaginary. Now we don't have to worry about what that imaginary nature of omega d means. All it means basically is that there won't be an oscillation. Of course, it follows from the critical damping condition also. There won't be oscillation, and since gamma by 2 here, here is much larger compared to the natural frequency of the system is simply going to lose amplitude much faster at a much faster rate, and most probably will come to halt in a very short amount of time. Right? So this is then called overdamped system or overdamped case, right? Where the damping is so strong that the system never ever even tries to go for the oscillation. It basically simply loses amplitude and dissipates all the energy into the against the dissipative force.